pretty, but it was enough. The Islanders start this crucial 11-game swing before the All-Star break with a 3-2 win over the Devils. We have our key takeaways, plus a full preview of Saturday's game against the Capitals. All that and more coming up on this episode of the Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody, and welcome to the weekend edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast. So glad you could join us today, and thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, and that does now include YouTube. So if you want to watch this episode instead of just listening to it, check us out there, subscribe, and every new episode will be in your inbox around 8 o'clock every weekday morning. Big day for the New York Islanders. Their first game after a 12-day layoff. Yes, they last played on New Year's Day afternoon, but the Islanders come through. They get a 3-2 win over the New Jersey Devils in regulation. That is an important aspect of it because, boy, they needed to pick up the 2 points. It wasn't always pretty, but they got the job done, and we've got our key takeaways from this game coming up later on in the show. We also have a full preview of Saturday afternoon's home game against the Washington Capitals. We've got our Islanders' birthday of the day, some All-Star news, and a question from a fan via Twitter. So we have a full show to get to today. If you've got something Islanders related on your mind, if you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to talk about on the air, feel free to send us an email. The email address, lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we talk about whatever it is that's on your mind. You could also follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Isles, and you could follow me, Gil Martin, on Twitter at Ice Wars, NYRVSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all the latest Islanders news, notes, and happenings. The big story initially, Islanders with a 3-2 win over the New Jersey Devils at the UBS Arena. And, it wasn't always pretty. This team hadn't played in 12 days, and it showed at times. A little sluggish in the first period. They seemed to be dragging a little bit in the third period, trying to hold on to a 2-1 lead, and yet they managed to get the job done and emerge with 2 points. Mathew Barzal with the game-winning goal, and wow, was that a pretty goal. But, Barzal wasn't just the only story. There was some good signs from this team. Let's get started with Josh Bailey. Got a goal, had an assist as well, made some very nice passes at different times in the game. We talked on yesterday's show about how important it is for certain players to get going, and Josh Bailey was on that short list. He definitely up in the game, and just playing more of the Josh Bailey style that the team needed him to be able to needed. Now the Islanders playing without J.G. Pageau, playing without Sebastian Aho, of them, apparently having children and off to be with their wives at that time. So congratulations to both of them, and the Islanders still come away with the win. You have to be a little disappointed, however, in that you're the Islanders going up against a Devils team missing a lot of players because of COVID, who's playing, John Gillies in goal, their third-string goaltender. The backup is an emergency goaltender named Kyle Shapiro, and they still could not really put Devils away. And the biggest drawback, I think, in this game, real third period, when the Islanders just had a parade of penalties back to back to back. And it kind of made things very difficult. Pelech off for trip, Brock Nelson off for cross-checking. That's the goal that results in the penalty, rather, that results in the tying goal. And in the third period, I think off really hurt the Islanders. And you saw them just skating slower than the Devils. That was a problem. I didn't like that Ilya Sorokin, that first goal was weak. Really wanted, should have had that one. But overall, the good thing about it was and 36, and both goals were not great. He gave up, but overall, solid game. Bounced back from the bad start early and got the job done. Noah Dobson continues to develop and to play solid hockey and just is making plays with confidence that he didn't have just a month and a half ago. And that's his first goal of the year. And before the game started, the NHL announcing the All-Star games, and Adam Pelech is the Islanders' representative at the All-Star game this year. It is by Pelech, although he did take 2 penalties in this game that kind of hurt the team. But overall, you're just going to see the defensemen play in their own zone as consistently as Adam Pelech does. And congratulations to him on that first All-Star game. Goes out, and the ball continues to look better, encouraging as well. It really is just there right now, and they're getting chances. The power play, and was a big plus that if they continue to play like this on the power play, the points will indeed accumulate for the New York Islanders, and happily, in this instance, it actually worked and end up with the 2 points. Mathew Barzal at times only played 15 minutes and 4 seconds, and he got shot surprise on goal. And, nice moments for the line of Austin Czarnik, Kiefer Bellows, and Oliver Wahlstrom out there as well. The identity line, and we talked about the importance of getting them back on track. They created a lot of scoring chances. Casey Cizikas doing his job. Cal Clutterbuck with some good hits. He led the team with 4 of them. And here's another stat I love from this. The Islanders dressed 18 players. No more than the 4 hits that Cal Clutterbuck was credited with, but only two out of the 18 were not credited. Very important. The Islanders picked up is something to build on. They got to play better against Washington Saturday, I could now. But you got the rust off. You beat a division opponent. I like the way they stuck up for each other a few times in this game. Something you wanted. And, well, just a good performance. Not a great performance, but a good enough performance by the Islanders to get the points and to start this crucial 11-game swing for the All-Star game with a regulation win. We've got more to discuss on today's show. We'll have a full preview of the game in at the UBS listener and our Islanders today. All that is on New Year, so that means New Year's resolution. And if yours is about getting fit or eating healthier, make sure you include Built Bar in your plan. Built Bar is the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, maybe even better than a candy bar. And Built Bar makes it easier to stick to your resolution because it tastes so good, you'll want to eat it. Unlike other protein bars, they could be chalky, waxy, or even taste like a chemical spill. I mean, you want to eat healthy, but it just gets so boring. By like week 3, you might be thinking, this is just not worth it. Where's the chocolate? Well, Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate, and most Built Bars contain just 130 calories, only 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, but 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a candy bar, which usually has around 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. And there's so many flavors to choose from: coconut almond, peanut butter brownie, raspberry, cookies and cream, my favorite salted caramel, mint brownie, and many more. In fact, Built is always coming out with new limited time flavors. So head on over to Built.com and see what's new. Go to Built.com, use the promo code LOCK15. You'll get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. Before we get to the game preview, wanted to get to a listener question. This one came via Twitter from Thomas Cox. I don't know where he's from, but thank you for the question, Thomas. With the trade deadline coming up, there is clearly a lot to improve on, Thomas writes. Do you see the Islanders trading for a defenseman like Chychrun, or do you think it's plausible they could trade at least Beauvillier and some AHL talent for an offensive winger who could put up to 30 in the net like Patrick Laine? Well, good question. It's one of those things that I think what happens in the next, let's say, couple of weeks is going to have a big determination on that. We've talked on the show about the importance of the next 11 games. Now there's 10 left. We wanted to get at least 15, really 16 points out of those 11 games to get back into the playoff hunt. If the Islanders are still in the playoff hunt when we get closer to the trade deadline, I think Lou Lamoriello will make a move to try to improve this team. And he will assess whether it's a defenseman, because, again, Dobson really is the only experienced puck-carrying defenseman on this team. Or they could go for that goal scorer. I get the feeling that the goal scorer, if they do it, I don't think they're eager to trade Beauvillier. You mentioned Bo as a possible trade bait. I think that if they make the deal for the higher priced player, and that's the goal scorer, it may be a rental player for the playoffs where the Islanders are taking on some salary, or even, giving up a draft pick to try to get that extra bit of, goal scoring into the lineup, maybe taking on an expiring but bad contract and going that way. I think the defenseman, you don't need to get a top pair defenseman or even a top 4 defenseman. You just need a guy who is pretty good at moving the puck, whether it's skating or passing and making that transition game work. That's a less expensive move, and I can definitely see them doing that if they feel they need it. And believe me, I think they do. Nothing against Zdeno Chara. He's been playing better. Nothing against Andy Green. He's been steady. But you don't need both of them in the lineup when you don't have anyone other than Noah Dobson who can consistently move the puck. So whether it's Chychrun or somebody else, I do think if this team is close enough and within striking distance of a playoff berth, that a defenseman, an inexpensive, relatively defenseman, would definitely be part of it. So, Thomas, thank you so much for the question via Twitter, and I hope that answers it for you right now. Saturday, Islanders hosting the Washington Capitals. That'll be a 2 o'clock Eastern time start. And, watching the Capitals at just the right time. Washington has lost their last 4 games, and the problem has been defense. Listen to the goals against in the last 4 games. You're talking about 19 goals given up, including 7 in their last game against the Boston Bruins at home in Washington. So that is a bit of a surprise. Look, the Capitals right now, 6th in the league in goals scored. In the middle, 15th in goals against. The power play, surprisingly, down near the bottom, 28th in the league with all the talent on this team, starting with Alexander Ovechkin. You would think the power play would be better. The penalty kill is ranked 11th. And Ovechkin, by far the leading scorer on this team with 24 goals, 52 points. Evgeny Kuznetsov with 35 points. John Carlson, second on the team in assists with 24. So many familiar faces on this team right now. Let's start with who's not available, or at least you go to the COVID list. Dmitry Orlov and Carl Hagelin, both right now on COVID. Whether or not they can return in time for Saturday, we don't know. Anthony Manta on the IR. But here's how those line combinations lined up in their last game. Kuznetsov, Ovechkin, and TJ Oshie on a very dangerous top line. Backstrom on the second line with Alexei Protas and Tom Wilson flanking him. Lars Eller, the third line center. Connor McMichael and Daniel Sprong are his wingers. And then it's Nick Dowd, Connor Sheary, and Garnett. Fedlin, the top pair, Trevor second pair, and Mattern and Justin Schultz are to give them two exceptional point men on that first power play unit. And, that's just a dangerous group. And again, I'm kind of surprised they haven't been that. Ilya Samsonak, are the goalies. Vitek Vanacek not available right now, and I think that has hurt Washington. But, Fucale's played very well. Only 3 starts, but a 1.75 goals against and a 9.24 save percentage. Samsonov on the year, 13-3-3, but a 2.76 goals against and a 9.03 save percentage. Not exactly outstanding. Another thing that I think the Islanders have an advantage here over Washington, and this may be something to look for in Saturday's game. Washington is not a very good face-off team. The Islanders, on the other hand, have some pretty good face-off players, especially if they get J.G. Pageau back. I don't know if he'll be back in time for Saturday's game, but you have Pageau. Got to talk about Casey Cizikas. He did another very good job in the face-off circle against the Devils. And if the Islanders can use that to their advantage, it certainly would help. Shorthanded goals, by the way, be on the lookout for it, because Washington already has 5 of them this year, including 2 by Kuznetsov. And Ovechkin has 1, Tom Wilson 1. This is a team that, even though their power play isn't great, shorthanded, they can be dangerous. And look, don't have to tell anyone about Alexander Ovechkin and how good he is and what a high level of hockey he's playing against. We talked about this 11-game string, and we said 7 of them were against teams that were struggling. Washington has, again, dropped 4 in a row, but they are not one of those 7 struggling teams that we talked about on the show. So overall, beating a shorthanded Devils team is great. You pick up the 2 points, and the Islanders certainly need those 2 points, but you take it to another level. When you can, like, Washington for a playoff. This episode is brought to you by I would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue our march to the playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains the number one spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022. It's a new year, and they've got a new updated desktop and mobile website, so sign up today, and you can receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to get started. That's locked on, one word. And look, they'll match your first deposit with a 50% welcome bonus just because you listen to the Locked On Islanders podcast. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. Time now for our Islanders' birthday of the day. We're going to close out the week with a fairly obscure player, but I like these. It's nice to give some of these obscure players their due, and, to make it to the National Hockey League is an accomplishment in and of itself. Here's a guy who only played 10 games for the Islanders, but hey, no question, happy birthday. Saturday will be the 59th birthday for former Islanders center Ron Handy, the Toronto, Ontario native drafted by the Isles in 1981 in the third round after playing for the Sioux Greyhounds and Kingston Canadians in juniors. Made his NHL debut in 84-85 with the Islanders, played 10 games with the Isles, had 2 assists in those 10 games, later played 4 games for the St. Louis Blues, and then had a whole lot of stops throughout the minors. Played hockey professionally until 1999-2000. Only had 14 career NHL games, 3 assists, 10 of those 14 coming with the New York Islanders. And we're going to go back in one of his better games with the Isles. This is December 29th, 1984 at the old St. Louis Arena. Islanders facing the Blues. It was Kelly Rudy in goal for the Islanders against Mike Liute for St. Louis, and it was the Islanders getting on the board quickly in the first period. Brian Trottier, his 9th of the year from Mike Bossy and Ron Handy, our Islanders' birthday of the day. Time of the goal, 1:34, and that was the first career point for Ron Handy. Then, later in the period, Jim Pavese off for hooking, and the Islanders' power play gets to work. Mike Bossy, his 32nd from Stefan Pearson and Brent Sutter at 4:44. Islanders up 2-0. And then 9 seconds after that, Trottier, his 2nd of the game, 10th of the year. Bob Bourne and Clark Gillies with the assist at 4:53. Islanders with 3 goals in a 3-minute and 9-second span. 2 goals in 9 seconds. And they have a 3-0 lead. That's the score after the first period. It's also the score after the second period. But in the third, the Blues get on the board. Doug Wickenheiser, his 12th from Brian Sutter. That made it 3-1. But the Islanders close it out just 3 minutes and 6 seconds after the Wickenheiser goal. John Tonelli scores unassisted, his 23rd. And then Brent Sutter reaches the 20-goal mark with assists from Bob Bourne and John Tonelli at 17:56. Islanders with a commanding 5-1 win in this one. And for Ron Handy, our Islanders' birthday of the day, he had the assist and was a +1 in this game. So Ron Handy is our Islanders' birthday of the day. He will turn 59 on Saturday. And for Kelly Rudy, by the way, 47 saves in this game. Islanders outshot 48-29. So again, happy birthday, Ron Handy. And he is our Islanders' birthday of the day. All right, big weekend coming up. Let's see if the Islanders can put things together. Whether or not they will get some players back, again, we don't know what the Sebastian Aho and JG Pageau situations are, whether they will be back in time for Saturday. We don't know yet when Kyle Palmieri will be back. He was still out of the lineup. He is skating with the team, practicing with the team, but hasn't been activated yet. We'll keep an eye on that, and we'll keep you up to date via Twitter. And Barry Trotz We don't know when he will be able to clear COVID protocol, but hopefully that'll be soon. Thanks for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On Bets. It's your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets is hosted by your boy Q with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all platforms. That's going to do it for us. We will be back Monday with a complete recap and key takeaways from Saturday's game against the Capitals. And we'll start to preview the home-and-home series against the Flyers Monday and Tuesday. So lots to talk about on Monday's show, and make sure you join us for that. Have a great day, everybody. And, of course, let's go Islanders.